Hello and welcome to Nat Chat. I'm Mirella Rich. Today our guest is Zachariou, who is an incomplete quadriplegic due to an accident he had on the road while riding his push bike. He's actually walking now. He's done a lot of training and exercises and here to tell us about his experience. Welcome back to the program. Came
Thanks,
back again.
Back again.
Great.
Can't get rid of me that easy.
And like, say for example, let's go back to the first time of some people's injury where they're actually told they're never going to walk. There's no flicker, there's no movement, there's nothing. And they're just like in their wheelchairs, in the hospital or even back at home, completely given up hope because the doctors told them it will never happen. They'll never feel anything again and they'll never feel as in get the regain the feeling in their body, the sensation, or get any movement back at all. And they're told cut, throat, no way. What would you say to someone like that, even though that wasn't exactly what happened to you? You were told you had hope.
Well, no, the doctors never told me I had hope. They told me I was a quadriplegic and I wasn't going to walk again. But
you might not walk again, or you definitely. Yeah.
No, they said I wasn't going to walk again. But the thing is, they do that to everybody. Anyone that comes in there with a spinal cord injury, they basically say to them that you're a paraplegic, you're a quadriplegic, and you're not likely. Usually, the wording they'll use may be a little bit different, but they'll either say you're not likely or you're not going to walk again. You're not going to regain your functions. But the truth of the matter is, today more than ever, more people are walking, or at least regaining a lot more of their functions back after post-injury, more because of the fact that, that it's been discovered that exercise and physical stimulation of the body and the body parts that are actually not functioning is helping people regain either movement or functions. For someone who's a quadriplegic who's sitting there like that, to be able to move one finger, it's a huge achievement. Now that is happening to people because they're being encouraged to actually be physical and to actually do some work with their injury. Whether the funding's there to actually provide that for them, that's another story.
Yeah, I think I've got a completely different story though, because when I was in hospital, they said to me, "You will never get anything back. You will never walk, not might walk, you'll never walk, and you are a complete spinal cord injury." And there were other people with me that were told similar things. And now luckily I am walking with crutches because I've worked through their words. But there are people that really believe them, and they're the ones I actually want to reach out to, the ones that actually innocently and vulnerably and trust and believe them.
Unfortunately, a lot of the people who are in the spinal cord, in the spinal ward at any of the hospitals, especially at the Austin, just happen to be in their mid-teens to mid-20s. That's the age where you're going to actually have that sort of accident because of the activities that they carry out. But to be that young and to be told that you don't have the strength, you don't have the inner strength to actually fight back and say to them, well, no, I'm going to try a bit harder than you're telling me. My experience when I was in Talbot, there was quite a few youngsters in there. One of them, I thought, he's got to be a quadriplegic because he was sitting there almost every day, very, very quietly and not being able to do much at all. When I did walk, his father came to me and said, "Oh, my son said that you've actually walked in the gym." I said to him, "Yeah, it's been hard work, but thankfully I'm able to start putting one leg in front of the other and regain a little bit of my mobility and able to walk." I said, "How is your son doing?" And he said, "Oh, he's struggling a little bit." He was only in his mid-20s at the time. I said to him, "Would you like me to have a word with him?" And I did. I spoke to his son a little bit later on, and I was quite frank with him. I said, I started the conversation and he said, "Oh, you're walking." And I said, "Yeah." I said, it's been great. It's been hard work. I said, "What about you?" He said, "Oh, no." I said, "Well, do you want to walk?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, unless you try harder, You're not going to. You sit there waiting for people to do things for you. I told him that he needed to work harder. Now, I'm not taking the credit for him actually doing anything other than just getting himself into the recovery mode and working a little bit harder in the gym, on the physio table, and just working with himself. Happily for me, 3 or 4 months later, when I was back at the rehab centre, I saw a miracle as far as I'm concerned. I heard somebody coming on a frame. Now it was that young man. He was able to walk with his frame. Okay, it's not 100% mobile, but geez, he got it out of that wheelchair. You know, he just needed that encouraging word from somebody.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not taking the credit. He did the hard work, but he actually got out of that chair and he used that frame to actually walk.
Yeah,
I was so proud of him.
Yeah.
So proud of him. I cry every time I tell that story, but you know, I tell it often enough so that I can get out of that that emotional stage. But I'm just so proud of that young man.
It's crazy, isn't it? I remember when I was there, the nurse came to see me and she said, because I felt so vulnerable too. I was really young, and I said, what happens if I work really hard and I keep trying to exercise? Will I get anything back? And she goes, you can exercise till the cows come home, nothing's going to change. You can try until the cows come home. I thought there was just so no hope, really no hope. And I really feel for other people who are treated like I was. It's just, because it's really negative. And they said I was complete, wouldn't happen. But I had everybody, nobody believed I would do it. No one, not even my family, because I was told I would never walk. Yeah. They had hope for me and they encouraged me, but it was like a monkey. What tricks can you do now? If you haven't got anything in 3 months, 6 months, you know, then we'll slowly think everyone's giving up on you. But, you know, years later, stuff started to
I think now, in the now, you know, your injury was some time ago. Mine was 6 years ago. The thinking is shifting. Okay, the doctors still have their teaching as what they know, but
they still say we prefer to wheel them out.
Well, absolutely, they want to wheel them out. But out there are centres opening up who are spinal cord recovery centres who use exercise as the number one recovery tool.
We'll have to go to a break now. You're watching Nat Chat. Stay with us. We'll be back very shortly. Hello and welcome back to Nat Chat. I'm Mirella Rich. If you've just joined us, we're here with Harry Zachariou, who is a quadriplegic, incomplete though, and he's walking after a spinal injury he had when he was on the road on his push bike. Welcome back to the program, Harry.
Thanks, Mirella.
Now, just before the break, we were talking about there are other places now that are starting to help people with spinal cord injuries. Like I've heard of like Project Walk in America, and they're getting such great results for some of the spinal cord injury people, but it's very expensive, and it's not government funded or anything. You have to actually find all the money yourself to go there. Have you got any information that you'd like to share on that? I
haven't taken a part in any of these centres. I think those places should be reserved for people who really need it. I'd love to be a part of one of these centres, but I'm not. Project Walk is a place that came to my mind when I was in Talbot. People were talking about going to the States to do this sort of work with what was a really expensive exercise. I mean, you've basically got to fly yourself and a carer with you, and you've got it's a 3-month program, I believe. So there's a couple of centres that have opened up in Melbourne now in Australia, I should say. There's a Project Walk in Sydney and Brisbane, and I know some people were
walk-on program. Is it the
walk-on program? Yeah, that's right. They change the names as they come to different countries. But they can be quite expensive, but I believe that they're very worthwhile, and if the funding can be found for people to actually take part, it doesn't mean you're going to go there and walk. Yeah, but what it does mean is that it gives a person who's been paralysed from the chest down, from the waist down, whatever, it gives them an opportunity to try and recover as much function from their body as possible. As I said earlier, just moving the one finger is a huge achievement for people.
Yeah. And plus the difference with those places is they really believe in you and they work really hard on you. And there's probably, I think, about 3, from what I've heard, because I've never been, but 3 people work on one person and they work really, really hard on you.
Do.
And they get results.
Yeah, I've seen a centre open up recently in Melbourne, in Thomastown, and the work that they're doing there is just fantastic. I believe that the people that are going there believe in the people that are coaching them and training them. They have, as you said, at least 2 or 3 people working on them at any given time. They don't have a dozen patients they're working on. They only have a small group of 3 patients at a time, and it's a very structured program.
Yeah, I remember when I had my injury, I've still got my injury, but when I was really training with someone, I paid someone who had been through a similar injury myself, because TAC wouldn't recognise it, or work cover wouldn't recognise it either, because I was on my way to work, but it was on the road. But he worked me so hard, and he was so positive. We worked from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. every day and just worked as hard as anything, and he didn't stop saying anything but positive things. And he would say, get the doctors out of your head, the physios out of your head, believe you're going to do it. Anyone who said anything negative, just don't even think about it. Don't let the energy take up any space in the brain, you know. And he was so positive, and we just reached milestones every week. I'd make goals every week, and we'd reach something every week. And, so I know the power of that.
I think the important thing there is that surrounding yourself with people that are positive about what you're trying to achieve. And I was lucky enough to have positive people around me. I've always been a positive sort of person, so if somebody said I'm not going to walk, I'll just try and find a positive out of that, and I did. And you're right. And you need to surround yourself with positive people, but also be positive yourself. You can't let any negative thoughts enter your mind, because as soon as they do, you're going to start doubting yourself, and you're just going to go backwards. You're not going to be able to achieve what you're trying to achieve. And that's been one of the things that's been driving me. I guess the only goal that I set that was that is impeding me now is to go back to work full time, because it doesn't give me enough time to actually try and get out there and train and get ready for my next other goal, that's the triathlon. So it is really hard to work around it, because I don't like to take time away from the family and the things that we do together.
Yeah. And what sort of other things you in your endeavour to get better and walk and recover, you also ran some fundraisers while you're doing it. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, when I decided that I was going to get back on the bike to ride back to work, I just wanted to, on a quiet Sunday morning when there's no one on the roads, get on a bike, whether it be a 2-wheeler or a 3-wheeler. I actually, when I did do it, was on a 3-wheel bicycle that was loaned to me by Australia Post, on a tricycle. Yeah. Australia Post were kind enough to give me one to do it with, and it sort of grew out of the idea that I needed a couple of people around me just in case I had a fall or something. But before I knew it, there was dozens of people that wanted to join me. So I decided to charge them a fee and asked people to sponsor me to do the ride. It was only 7 kilometres, so it wasn't a huge ride, but from an achievement point of view, I was floating on air that day. It wasn't very physically demanding, but it really did show that you can achieve what you like. And we were able to raise in excess of $7,000 on that day. And
where were you raising the money for?
Most of the money was directed towards Royal Talbot. My original goal was to raise $2,000 and buy a set of televisions and bar fridges, so that the patients can set them up in their rooms to store their food and have obviously a TV to watch, because the rooms don't come with televisions at the rehab centre. So we did that, achieved obviously the $2,000. We also bought a special air mattress, which is specially designed to prevent bed sores for people with paralysis. So that was something that Talbot would hire each time they needed one. So we actually purchased one on behalf of Talbot, and they're making good use of that now. Unfortunately, somebody I know after my accident had an accident, and they ended up in Talbot. And they had a TV that was purchased with our money, and they had a fridge
so
that was, I was able to see what happened, and we also directed some of the money towards one of the spinal cord injury recovery programs.
Okay, well that's good. Well, we'll go to a break now. You're watching Nat Chat. I'm Mirella Rich, and we're here with Harry Zachariou. We'll be back very shortly. Hello and welcome back to Nat Chat. I'm Mirella Rich and we're here with Harry Zachariou, if you've just joined us. Harry sustained a spinal cord injury. He's quadriplegic, yet he is walking because he's worked very hard, and there's a lot of good stories come out of it. So welcome back to the program, Harry.
Thanks, Mirella.
Before we continue, we were just talking about the spinal cord injury places that are available in Australia. There's two. There's Walk On in Brisbane and Walk On in Sydney, and the ones in Melbourne are... Okay,
so there's a similar walk-on centre that is based, I believe, at the Western Oval, Footscray Football Club.
Yeah.
I can't get that in my head. But there's also a new centre that's opened in Thomastown called the Next Step Injury Recovery Centre, which is doing some amazing things with people in wheelchairs and trying to helping them regain mobility, or at least regain functions that they set goals to do. And it's just, it really is pleasing to see that more people are using the exercise ideology to actually get some function back, because if you don't move it, you lose it.
Exactly, and that goes for even when you're told you're not going to get it back, you still have to believe.
Absolutely.
Like going through a brick wall, you just move it, move it, move it.
Absolutely,
exactly. And when you first found out about this, was there any point where you prayed? Because I've heard like Mary in Medjugorje, where she's been appearing, say things like, what is it exactly? Little children, prayer works miracles, Our Lady said in Medjugorje recently. Well, on the 25th of April 2001, she said that. Did you find a place to pray? Did you find that helped you in any way?
It's interesting you mention faith, I guess. On the first Saturday I was in hospital, a nurse was walking about the ward asking who wanted to go to the All Faiths service that was being held on the Sunday morning, because they were trying to arrange for volunteers to help the patients. And I was in a fairly dark place as far as the drugs go. I was drifting in and out of consciousness, and my wife, who was sitting next to me, she said to the nurse, I don't think you'll be interested. And I sort of half opened my eyes. I said, I'll be in on that. I needed to go there I know I've not been a very religious or very church-going person, but I needed to thank somebody for what had happened that week, because I could have easily been killed. So I was wheeled off into the service that morning. I slept through most of it, I must say. I probably snored through and drowned out the minister who was taking the service. But for me, that was the beginning of coming out and just saying, no, you can't beat me. I've survived this. I may have a spinal cord injury, but I'm going to fight it, and I'm going to just continue fighting it until I can't fight anymore. Right. So. And
what kept your faith so strong that you believed that you would recover throughout it? Like you kept working at it, like you didn't sort of give up and say, oh, this is too hard, or even though they didn't, say 100% you weren't going to walk, but they still said, it's possible that you won't. Don't get too excited.
Look, I use my family as my strength. My kids. Yeah. The wife.
Yeah.
Even to this day, I get emotional when I think about that.
Yeah. And in what ways did your family help you, would you say, to recover?
Just by being there and believing in me. Yeah. They believed in me all the time, so, if they believed in me, then I had to fight. If I gave up, then I'd be giving up on their dream, and their dreams are my dreams. So, yeah, they used my family as my rock.
Yeah, beautiful. And is there anything you'd like to say to someone who's going through this right now? Maybe they're watching TV right now and they've just found out they're in the same position. What sort of advice would you like to give them?
The doctors don't know everything. But that's the truth. They don't know everything. Of course it's
true. They're not God.
You need to just move it. You know, you need to exercise. You need to do as much as you can to try and recover as much as you can. I'm not saying to them you're going to get out of that chair and it's going to be a miracle, because that would be me lying to them. But if you don't try, you just never know what you're going to get back. They need to have a go. They really need to get up. And I shouldn't be saying get up because they're stuck in a wheelchair, but I used to say that to myself. You need to visualise yourself getting out of that chair, because that's what I did. I wanted to be out of that chair, so I had to close my eyes, even though I couldn't move my legs. Close my eyes and just say, "Okay, I'm moving my legs, and I'm going to get up. I'm going to get up." And just slowly, I was able to just build up on that faith and just get myself out of that chair.
And did you write down each goal, like for each section of the body, like I want to get my quads back by 2 months, or I want to get my quads back in 2 weeks, or whatever? Did you do anything like that?
I didn't write down the goals. I did write them down. I used Facebook as my communication tool. I told all my friends, because I didn't want to use a mobile phone. I had my friends keep up with what I was up to on Facebook. If they wanted to message me, they would message me on Facebook. If they wanted to visit me, I was there. But I put my goals out there. Everybody knew what my goals were, and there was no hiding from the goals. So I didn't write them down just for me. I wrote them down for everybody, so they know what I wanted to do. And so I guess you put it out there so you get more support, and also you feel like you've got to bring the results, because all these people are sort of waiting now. Yeah, look, that's a bit of pressure to put on yourself, but it's a way of achieving your goals. Put that pressure on you. But I stumbled a little bit on my goals. I was supposed to do the triathlon last year, but I just wasn't fit enough to do it last year, so I bit the bullet halfway through the year, and I said, okay, I can't do it this year, but I'm going to do it next year. So the plan is there. The TAC have come on board, and they've helped me with some extra physio sessions leading up to this November to do the triathlon. So hopefully with their help and with the gym membership and swim membership, I'll be able to build up the strength, and it's only a short one, but I'll do it.
Yeah. And is there any way people can help to fund things, to raise money for more physios to help people, say for example at Royal Talbot, more people to work like they do at Project Walk? They have like 3 people working on one person, except you have to pay yourself, whereas Royal Talbot it's funded with TAC for most people. Royal
Talbot is part of the Austin Health Group, and people can make donations to and specifically say that they want the donations to go to the spinal unit at Royal Talbot. The Next Step Spinal Cord Injury Recovery Centre is always looking for sponsors to help them provide their services at a much more affordable price to their clients. They're not funded. They're a not-for-profit organisation, so they're obviously always looking for people to help them out.
Beautiful. Thanks very much for coming on the program. We've run out of time now.
Thanks for having me.
We'll have you again some other time. Would you like to come back again another time?
Oh, why not?
Haven't even got through all the questions. You've been watching Nat Chat. I'm Mirella Rich, and our guest today was Harry Zachariou. Hope you enjoyed the program. See you again soon.